So here we're talking about the child as 4 parts. This is really important because the 4 parts are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And this is where I feel like what I'm going to say to you, some of you are going to be like, yeah, that's it, I knew it. Some people are going to be like, well, maybe she said the word spiritual, I'm not really so sure. And then other people are just going to be like, not really ready, maybe next year. And that's okay. So wherever you are, it's fine. But from my perspective, my experience and what I've been learning and studying over the last 15 years, each being is 4 parts. And none of these 4 parts are being nurtured and fostered at the same time in a person's development, from childhood to adulthood. Never. They're not being nurtured, they're not being recognized. Maybe we're really focused on the physical part. And so we want the kid to be active and eat healthy and, really kind of excel physically and look good and be clean and, do all of those kind of physical things. And even we focus on the intelligence of the child, so the mental capabilities of the child. We have all this testing in school. We want the kids to be ready to pass tests, to get high scores, to do all of this stuff, and to be really adept in this mental capacity. We also have the emotional side. The emotional piece is kind of a newer phenomenon, I feel like, where we're talking about and wondering about emotional intelligence, and where some researchers are even now starting to say that emotional intelligence is more important than your IQ or your intellectual ability. And the predictors of success actually are coming from the development of your emotional intelligence more so than the IQ intelligence, which is an old paradigm, right, that we're trying to shift away from. Then we have the spiritual. When we think about what it means to nurture and foster development in children or adults in our communities from a spiritual perspective, we're left with nothing. There has been a huge pullback in 3 of the main areas in our society. So we have the family structure, which has changed and diversified over the last 50 to 60 years, right? We can all agree to that. The role of the family has changed, and that's a good thing. But how do we then work with the new models, and that's something as a society we're trying to figure out. The role of the educational institutions is changing. The schooling system at one time used to be an extension of parents, an extension of your family. And teachers were really like your second parent. And everything that happened at school, your parents knew about. Everything that your parents were doing at home, the teachers did at school. And so there was an extension of that. It's no longer like that. You're not allowed to be as involved, and some of the changes have been good, but also we have not yet found out a way to kind of merge the difference. So still how to meet the needs of the child and the family, but in this kind of separated way. And the role of religious affiliation is a 3rd main institution, and that's changed. And so we're all moving away from organized religion, many of us, and even if you align with it, from a cultural type perspective or kind of still engage in some of the customs, we're not necessarily practicing and preaching, religious concepts at home to our children. We're not nurturing this part of their development. So if we all kind of agree that there's been a dissension in all 3 of those areas, all of which have also contributing factors to separation. So families feeling more isolated, individuals feeling more separate from their families, separate from their communities. And so all of this separation is increasing the trauma symptoms that we're all experiencing. And one teacher that I really love and admire a lot is Marianne Williamson. She says, if you had a childhood, you have trauma. It's not really a question. If you had a childhood, then you have some sense of trauma that's still in your body. That yoga is helping us move. What we're doing in yoga, and when we look at yoga, we're going to look at a new kind of all-encompassing view of what yoga is in just a moment. Are you guys all with me so far? So 4 parts: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. How do we nurture all 4 of these parts at the same time? I'll give you one guess. Right? Yoga.